All right, we're gonna go this way first, guys. Do watch this rug. I fix it all the time, but it still gets messed up.
Oh, I got a duck through the hole doorways.
All right, everybody.
That's common. So right now you guys are standing in the oldest part. This is built in 1847, and this was the area where it was started off as a school for boys between the ages of like 15 to 18. The cool thing was when they graduated from here, they didn't have to go on to higher education. They actually graduated with degrees, such as being doctors, lawyers, stuff like that. And then in 1889, the Women's Relief Corps purchased the building and made it a place for women that were misplaced during the Civil War. Our most famous being a woman named Elizabeth Stiles. She was actually born in, are you guys from Ohio?
Yes.
So you know where Ashtabula is?
Mm-hmm.
She was born and raised in Ashtabula. 5 years old, she could shoot a gun. By 15, she knew seamstress skills and nursing skills that she learned from her mother. 1862, she moved down to the Kansas-Missouri border with her husband, and she was a very big supporter of the Union. And every day, as a school teacher, she'd go out and she'd raise the Union flag. The Confederates actually saw her do that, told her if she did it again, they were going to kill her. No other way to put it. She was a toughie, BA, fill in the blanks. She went out the very next day and raised that Union flag again. They saw her do it, followed her to her home, found out where she lived, went and found Union soldiers, killed them, took their uniforms, and went back to her home at nightfall. Knocked on the door, her and her husband come to the door together, and they say, "What are your politics?" They see Union soldiers. That almost scared me for a second. They see Union soldiers, so right away they say Union, and they shoot him. He falls to the ground. They actually take the muzzle of the gun, put it in his mouth, and then blow off his head right in front of her. So she runs and tries to get out the back door. One of the guys raised a gun to shoot her, and the leader actually stops him and says, "Don't shoot her, she's too pretty to shoot." So she gets away. She joins the army as a nurse. While she's doing this, Confederates are coming in injured, and she's getting information from them. Abraham Lincoln actually finds out about this, writes her a letter, asks her to be a Union spy. She agrees right away, and she travels across 17 different states getting information. She was so good at her job, she actually got caught and convinced them she was working for the Confederates. And she brought back a brand new horse, ammunition, everything. She brought right back to the Union. The reason she's so near and dear to our hearts is she actually, sorry, I just touched my front, was there. Dear to our hearts is because She lived the last 4 years of her life here, and she passed away here, and she's actually buried at the cemetery that's up the road. We used to own that cemetery. We used to own 170 acres. It was kind of like a working farm. Like we had cows, chickens, all that, so that they had their food too, so the state didn't have to provide so much food. But we also had our own cemetery. There's also 92 other women buried there that died here. But between both sides, there's been a total of 201 documented deaths. There have been many that were not documented, but 201 that were documented. Did you guys want to hear paranormal experiences or no? That's up to you. No? Okay, I'll just let you guys know this area, this whole floor, is a very active area in the building. Don't underestimate this side. A lot of people feel like they don't get a whole lot over here, but I think it's just because they don't, because everybody's so excited to go to the asylum. Mm-hmm. This side's very active. So.
This wheelchair especially. I feel like the wheelchair moves and pushes, but it's still.
I can't see you.
Like running up and down the halls.
So when we go down, I'm going to skip the next floor. It's the same exact thing. It was the Women's Relief Corps. It was the school. That area is not quite as active as up here. Usually our experiences down there actually come from up here. Like we'll hear the people walking from down there, stuff like that. So I'm just going to skip over that. You guys are welcome to investigate it. I'm just going to save time. We're going to go straight to the basement.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Is that you?
No.
I didn't hear anything.
Wow, what was that? Yeah, she wasn't kidding.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't hear anything. What'd you guys hear?
It was
Some
like
scream?
It was like a.
Really? See,
Just take this. Let you have this. I hear this all the time, but just put this in your pocket and put this on your ears. All right, go ahead.
so the building has been many different things over the years. It's been the, like I said, the school, the Women's Relief Corps. Then it became known as a place known as the home for soldiers, their wives, their widows, their sisters. Basically anybody related to military could come here to retire if they had nowhere else to go. Then it became known as the Madison Home, and that ran for the longest time from 1904 to 1975, and that was actually on the other side. And that would have been a place for women who had dementia, Alzheimer's, had mild handicaps, stuff like that. But we also had the Asylum then too, which were people who were criminally insane, mentally insane, physically handicapped, mentally handicapped. But in 1956, they brought in this program that was called Opportunity Village, and this is where they brought in women prisoners from Marysville Prison. That's down in Southern Ohio. That prison is still open today. Mm-hmm. And they would house up to 13 women down here as what they called honor inmates. Basically, that was just them waiting to get paroled. And while they were here, they got to actually work with the elderly. Like they would cook, they would clean, they would help with some nursing stuff like that. Most of these women would have been here for petty crimes, such as writing bad checks, stuff like that. But we did have one woman, her name was Blanche Jacobs. In 1952, her and her husband lived down in Cincinnati, Ohio, and she started writing bad checks, got caught, kind of got a slap on the wrist. Then they moved to Columbus, Ohio, and they moved next to an elderly couple named Mr. and Mrs. Robinson. They were ages 73 and 74. They were actually her landlords, and she became very good friends with them. She started writing bad checks on their account. Mrs. Robinson actually finds out it's her, so she calls her on the phone, and she's like, Blanche, I'm either going to need the money or I'm going to have to notify the police. So Blanche's like, I'll be right over to talk to you. She goes next door. They had two kitchens. One was upstairs and one was downstairs. Mrs. Robinson was actually in the downstairs one baking pies. Blanche comes in. They get into some kind of heated argument. She picks up a rolling pin, hits Mrs. Robinson over the head with it. She falls to the ground. Mr. Robinson hears the commotion and comes down the stairs. Blanche picks up a butcher knife and slices him to death. Mrs. Robinson then wakes up and is trying to get out the garage door. Blanche chases her down, drags her back in, and then slices her to death. takes both of their bodies, puts her up in the upstairs bathroom, cleans the whole house with bleach, goes home and tells family and friends that the Robinsons went on vacation. She holds up the charade for 3 days. Finally, she can't take it anymore. She tells her husband, I killed the Robinsons. He doesn't believe her. She physically has to take him to the bodies and show him, I did this. So after that, she tries to starve herself. She tries to say she's insane, all this stuff. She was proven not to be insane. She spent some time in Lima Hospital. She finally gets convicted, and she gets back-to-back life sentences to be served in Marysville. She ends up here after only 4 short months, taking care of the elderly as an honor inmate waiting to be paroled. What? And we were very confused by that. How did that happen, This building was pretty much always military ran. Her husband was very high-ranking in the Air Force, and we believe he had some kind of pull with getting her to what she considered safety, because this would have been a lot safer than being in prison.
I think she was very charming.
She was, yes.
She had a very, she could talk you into doing anything and get you to trust her very
She was a very short, petite woman, very soft-spoken. And the really weird thing was, while she was here, all of our superintendents lived in the building. And she actually became a nanny to his children. The children are still alive today, and they were out 2 summers ago and walked us through the building, telling us all about the and that was the coolest experience of my life. That was so cool, because it's going back in time. But they actually knew Blanche on a personal level. She was the best woman ever. She used to bake us pies. She would take us outside to play. I guess everybody has a bad day once in a while. So they were saying how great she was. She even went to their wedding and stuff. So I don't know.
She never had any kind of acting up after that?
No, she actually got paroled in 1975 when this closed. She went to live with her grandchildren in Arizona. That's where she passed away. So I don't know if there's some other kind of forces at play. I don't know,
There in Columbus. Yeah. I feel like I've heard that story.
Yeah, it is in Columbus. I actually have the article upstairs. Okay. Remind me to show you. It's up on the piano in case I forget, in the lobby. It says what city it was in.
Guess what's back to here?
My camera's very drained.
You didn't want to know paranormal, right? Or should I tell you? Yeah, that's definitely a hot spot.
Yeah, I've been taking pictures down there because I've been feeling it too.
Do you want to know, or you want to wait?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay.
No.
But yes, that is definitely an area.
I felt it too. I was like, yeah.
Is there any particular reason why this doll is in a case?
Yes.
That's...
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to know the story behind that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful virgin.
She's in, yeah. Did one of you guys just breathe out heavy? No? Okay. I might have heard something. It was almost like somebody getting it kind of aggravated,
Close to you.
huh?
It could have been close to you.
It's possible. So this would have been, now we're on the bigger side that had the asylum and the dementia patients and all that. This was their dining room area. It would have been for the ones that were able to come downstairs. You would have some that were wheelchair bound or bed bound. And the asylum patients didn't come downstairs at all. They were in the asylum and that was it. So we do have a dumbwaiter that goes all the way up to the 4th floor asylum. Those are your only 2 working bathrooms for the night. We do actually have 9 bathrooms in the building, but only those 2 work. The women's is on the left and men's on the right. This area is another very active area, without giving too much away. Debunkable though, important. This hallway has our fire system in it and the main hub for it. So when you come in here with the EMF detector of any sort, like a K2 or any of that, it spikes. Just so you know, it's not paranormal, it's just the electrical here. But usually once we get down, we're going down to the laundry wing. Once you get about halfway down that hallway, it comes back to normal. It's just this one area. And then just right above it on the next floor up, directly above it, it'll go off a little bit. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Perfect.
I just had a drop of water on my face.
And there's a whole nother floor. There's be no reason. We have no water going anywhere but there.
Right on my face.
That's actually a sign in the paranormal of something. I can't remember what it was. If you feel water drop on your head or anything. I forget what it is. Something, I can't remember what it's called. But that's cool. So we're going to walk right over here. Yes.
That's me.
Always seen this part in the video.
So there's always been an urban legend that supposedly around the turn of the century, one of the school teachers had gone missing, and she was having a affair with a higher up here, and she was coming to tell him that she was pregnant, and she was also going to tell his wife. She went missing. Supposedly she was buried here. We had a television show out a couple years ago. They wanted to bring in cadaver dogs. We're like, yeah, go ahead, bring in cadaver dogs. So they brought in 2 that were like trainees. The first one came through, went through the whole building. Then right around this area here, does a little pat and tell that something was here. They take that one out, bring the other one in. Same thing, all through the building, nothing until like right about here. And then does a little pat and tell that something's here. So then they did ground penetrating radar. And they did the whole basement area. And here, about 2.5 foot down, they got an anomaly on the screen, about the size of like one of those mini footballs. So they asked if they could dig, and we're like, yeah, please dig, sorry. So they dug, 2.5 foot down, found absolutely nothing. So they actually went down almost 3 foot, still didn't find anything, and the excavator looked confused. He's like, that doesn't make any sense. If there was some kind of anomaly, even if it was something small putting off a gas, there should have been something here. Didn't find anything. So then they actually brought in our Lake County's active canine unit, which is the county we're in now, the sheriff's department. They brought that dog in. He wouldn't even go down the hall. He wouldn't even go through the building. He kept barking and pulling in this direction. So they just let him go. He comes running in here and actually jumps on the pile of dirt that was still over here from them digging and does a little pat and tell that something's here. So a couple different things with that. Those dogs actually since back 30 years ago. So if we listened to the dogs, it wouldn't have been turned the century. But 30 years ago, this building was completely abandoned. There would have been people breaking in. Everybody knew it was the old nut house, you know. It was actually advertised as being haunted when it was up for lease at one point. So people would always break in. Higher ups did still have access. They had keys to the building. There was maintenance people that still worked here even though it was closed down to make sure pipes weren't freezing and making sure the grounds were kept up. So people had access. There could have been somebody buried here that moved, or maybe we should have listened to the dogs and maybe we should have dug a little bit farther. So if you look, we've actually started to tunnel that way a little bit.
I see it a little bit now.
Yeah.
Just now?
We just started tunneling recently, yeah.
Yeah.
But not like today, but
Oh, I know.
my son actually, because my son volunteers with me, he's 25, and he actually just about, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, actually dug a lot of it out. Because we want to know, you know, we want to tell her story.
Absolutely.
And if she has families, because if it did happen 30 years ago, she may have somebody that's still alive that's still wondering where she's at.
Right.
So we want her story told, you know. And this is another, of course, very active area, as you felt when you walked in. I saw it on your face. But we didn't find anything. We did keep the dirt, too, because that excavator was, like, adamant that there should have been something here. So we're going to dig through and make sure we didn't miss a small bone, a tooth, you know, something. So we're going to dig through and see what we can find. We're going to go straight across to the actual laundry area. Also, something to keep in mind down here, there's plastic on some of the windows. So the wind will make a noise. That is the dirt from the hole over there. That's the actual dirt from it. This would have been the laundry area. A lot of activity over here also, but some of it is residual and some of it is intelligent. So without giving too much away, that's basically, it's just a very active area. So I wanted to bring you over here. I don't have a whole lot of history other than it was the laundry ring, where they did their laundry at. And this wall is not original to the building. This was actually put in like the 1970s. If you actually look there, that's the original wall. It used to be all open. And we'll start working our way up. Oh, you're fine.
What was the woman's name?
We don't know. Like I said, it started off as an urban legend, so we don't even have anything on it. guys something real quick. As soon as everybody's out here, in case you guys are separated at the time that happens.
Okay. That was funny, baby.
It's weird hearing your own voice through the microphone.
Yeah.
As I'm talking.
Ooh, that's pretty, isn't it?
Isn't that a pretty room? It's one of my favorites. So this area here, this floor, over here would have been what they refer to as the waiting to die patients. So basically like hospice is today. This was the family sitting room, and like he said, it's a very pretty room. It's one of the prettiest rooms in the building because they like polyurethane, the brick and everything. That's all original. It's beautiful. This is where the superintendent's office was, and like I said, all the superintendents and their families lived in the building, and they actually would have lived over here. I'm going to take you over here because I have a story to tell you about one of the superintendents. So when the superintendents lived here, like I said, we had the one superintendent, Delbert Nixon, his children were out, Mark and Judy, and they explained to us the layout of how they lived over here. And that would have been like a fancy living room for like entertaining, and then this was like their family living room. And then back behind me are their bedrooms, and we're actually going to go that way because the story pertains to one of the bedrooms, but I wanted to show you a certain way of getting through here because it pertains to the story. Okay?
Gotcha.
So we had four superintendents for, well, it was the Madison Home. The first one was Commander Weber. The second one was Mr. Otis Neal. The third one was Captain Wheeler. And then the fourth one was Delbert Nixon, the one that I talked to his children about. The second one was Otis Neal. He was not military. Commander Weber was the first one. He did not like that Otis was here taking care of military people and was trying to get him thrown out. And back then, if you got a job like that, you got to live here. So you would sell your property, your land, your house, whatever, and you'd move in here because you planned to be here for a while. So that's what he did. He sold his land, sold his house, moved in here with his wife and his daughter, her stepdaughter. And then they got wind that they were going to be thrown out because they weren't military. Supposedly the night that they heard about this, she committed suicide in the building. The newspaper article read that she left her bedroom, went through his bedroom, because back then a lot of times couples didn't sleep together, through the living room, out to get a glass of water, came back the same way, kissed him on the forehead, came in here with a 1911 revolver, wrapped it in bed sheets, and then shot herself through the heart. Then the 15-year-old stepdaughter finds her the next morning. A lot of red flags with that whole statement. One, you're in a building where there are people who are sick on the same floor, doctors, nurses taking care of them. You have your husband asleep next door. You have your stepdaughter across the hall. Why did nobody hear that gunshot? I don't care if you wrapped it in bed sheet.
Right.
It's not gonna silence it enough that nobody heard it. I mean, you guys could try this theory later. Go to another floor and have somebody just scream mildly from down here, and you'll probably hear it because things echo through here.
Oh, yeah.
So that was one big red flag for me. Was I don't think she committed suicide. Most of the time, women, especially back then, would never do suicide by gunshot. Mm-hmm. It was either pills or some kind of other way because they don't like the blood.
Cleaning supplies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And as I said, it was his second wife. So I wanted to find out what happened to his first wife, who's also, they're both, their names were Mary. He was married to two Marys. The first wife actually dies of a broken heart. You don't die of a broken heart unless something tragic happens in your life. So let's dig in a little bit further to Mr. Otis. I'm not a fan of him, by the way, in case you can't tell. His oldest daughter, he had another daughter, he killed her. The newspaper article was literally like this big, and it says she did a mild infraction, he punishes her, and then she dies from that punishment. Doesn't say what she did, didn't say what he did to kill her. So then you have his first daughter that's dead, his first wife's dead, now his second wife commits suicide, and then the 15-year-old daughter, Otis doesn't end up being thrown out. So if she did commit suicide, she did it for no reason. And it seems like a silly reason to do it. But he moves in with his daughter, who is now in her 30s, living up the road. Within 6 months of him living there, she runs out in front of a car, and all witnesses say there's no way she didn't see it, and she died of the injuries. He ends up dying in 1939 with a net worth of over $52 million. That's like billions of dollars today. So then I had to dig into him more. You know, I'm like, I need to know more about this guy. We actually found letters from women that were here, like patients, trying to get him thrown out because he was taking their money. He was telling them they weren't military, they didn't deserve that money. Their husbands fought in the war, not them. It was free to be here for them. They had no reason to ever take their money. He was leaving them $10 a month to live off of. So I just don't think he liked women very much. And I don't think she committed suicide. I can't prove it because I wasn't there. So, and back then, like we reached out to a forensic science person that studies like history stuff. And we asked him, you know, what would happen if coroner comes in and you're like, and the police come in and we're like, oh, my wife committed suicide, and they stage it to look like a suicide. You're like, oh, this was 1911. Women didn't even have the right to vote, so they wouldn't even question it. They would have just took her out and deemed it a suicide. Mm-hmm. So, and he doesn't like the fact that we're figuring this out. So, no. And he's here. He's 100% here.
And he does not like a certain woman.
He don't like me.
If you are.
He does not like me. Yeah, he don't like me. It's okay. I ain't afraid.
I don't think I like him either.
Same. Not a fan. Otis Neal, yeah. And her name was Mary. He actually told me on a recording that he was going to kill me.
I believe it too, because he's.
Be careful on the stairs. I feel like he wants to push you downstairs. I'm not kidding.
He literally told me he was going to kill me.
I feel like he wants to push you.
I'm going to tell you a story about that. I know you don't want to hear a lot of the paranormal, but I'm going to tell you that story just because you picked up on it. Huh?
Otis what?
Neal, and it's Kneele. We were in that little dining room area over on the other side of the thing, and Adam, the owner, was with us. We had one of those portal boxes going, and I was kind of calling him out, but I was trying to be respectful. I'm just like, can you just explain to me? I have one question. Why did nobody hear that gunshot? I said, that's the only part that really bothers me, is nobody heard it. And over the box it said my full name. I'm like, yes, what do you want? You know, he goes, I will kill you. Mm-hmm. And I said, bring it, basically. And he goes, I'll wait. I'm like, what are you waiting for? And then he said the town that I grew up in. Are you guys familiar with this area?
No.
No? Okay. I live in a town, I grew up in a town called Fairport Harbor, which is not easy to come over a spirit box. And how would it know it? Yeah. You know, it's not something people hear about a lot. It's a very small town. Literally, it's considered a village because it doesn't even have enough people to be a city or a town. It's a village. So how did you know that? So because Adam, the owner, was with me, I'm like, what does that even mean? He goes, he's showing you that he knows you well enough that he can do this.
Mm-hmm. And this right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that would have been his office.
Uh-huh.
It was his
On the
office.
first
office.
moment.
I saw you walk that way. You know, it's weird that you say that he wants to push me down the stairs because I've been tripping going up them lately.
I just tripped going up them.
And I don't ever trip going up them, but lately I've done it a lot.
Hold on to the railings.
Interesting. Oh, another thing I want to tell you guys real quick is down here there's a little kitchen area, and there's a fan in there, and when the winds pick up, because it's going to be windy tonight, it makes like a ticking noise, and sometimes it'll even like flap. There's a flap on the outside that's metal, and it'll bang against the building. And it sounds like pots and pans being thrown around a kitchen. So we've already debunked it. That's what that is. So if you hear that, just check that area. It's probably what it is. Okay. Is he following us right now?
You don't like me.
You don't like me either. Join the club. You better hold on to the railings too then. Look, I grabbed the little railing.
prayed up real good before I came.
I have protection in the building. I actually have spirits that protect me, so
Jesus.
that too. I have him too.
That's all I have. That's all I need.
But there's residents here, like certain spirits that have actually told other mediums that they're here to protect me while I'm here. So that makes me feel a little bit better too. That's disgusting. I don't even want to pick it up. Why do people do that crap?
What is it?
A tissue. I'm trying to get my. Oh, here's toilet paper. I don't want. With all this COVID stuff, I don't want to touch somebody's snot rag.
Nobody blames you.
Feeling the fear up here.
I feel it too.
So this area would have been all the women who had dementia, Alzheimer's, plus like the retired military, all that. Is that garbage can still in here?
Whoa. Huh.
Another drop?
What's wrong?
She got another.
Another one?
Yeah.
That's weird.
You ever get shadows over here?
Yes.
Okay, because I just seen one and I missed it. I didn't get up the camera. I was looking that way. I was.
Yeah, this whole floor is very active. This hallway.
Pick right around the corner.
But it could have been your light though, check, because it's both these doors go to the same.
No, I was here. I had the camera turned this way.
Right,
And I
look.
looked through my head.
Yeah, you can see your light though.
I turned my
This
head.
here.
That's the laundry chute.
Oh, okay. Oh. Laundry chute. Look down there.
And on the other side, there'll be a door that looks almost similar to that, and that's the dumbwaiter.
That's creepy.
You all right?
Y'all can have this room.
Welcome to my world.
Oh.
Okay, that was somebody, right?
What?
No.
Heavy breathing again?
A man growling.
Really?
What we heard downstairs, probably.
That's what I heard downstairs.
It's probably somebody with me. There is somebody that follows me through the building, usually. Not every time, but a lot of times. So this is what we call Sarah's room. Without going into the paranormal and the experiences, it's hard to talk about this room because we have no documentation of a child ever dying here. But that is what she puts herself across as, a child spirit who's 8 years old. That's the best way I could describe this room, other than, because we don't have the history behind it. Like I said, we don't have documentation of children ever dying here. We do have documentation of children being here, but none dying here. Not that everything was documented back then either, so we don't know what she is or who she is. There's a bunch of theories to it.
And why would she be in this ward?
Right. Well, when the current owner purchased the building, he went through the building and basically told them they didn't have to stay in their rooms, that they were able to free roam. They can go wherever they want. They can actually cross over. They can go wherever they wanted. They were free, is basically what he told them. So that could be possibly why she would be in a different room. But this is definitely Sarah's room. That's who you will mostly
Or
get.
batteries or disc.
You got low battery?
Yeah.
I had
Mine
12
just
hours
comes
of
out.
battery. This battery started off at 4.5 hours. I'm down to 2.5 already.
And I bet you when you take it
We're
back
not gonna
downstairs,
make it
it'll probably be
all
full. I bet you
So
time you get
full.
back downstairs, no. I bet you when you get back to the lobby, it'll be back to full. Especially in this room. A lot of times we've gotten recordings of them saying no recording, no cameras, turn it off. Or there'll be a woman that'll yell, they're recording.
These batteries are pretty stable.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I can feel it though. I can feel it in here.
What do you think of that? That's funny. I was waiting to see if you would pick that one up.
Is that just like a little photo?
And like I said, I'm here all night, so if you have questions later about something you picked up or anything like that, feel free to ask me. I love talking about this stuff, so you're not bothering me at all. Shelly.
I'm Christy.
Yeah, I think you're off taking pictures when we all introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
This bathroom has a rumor. We have not been able to confirm it, but we talk about it because we do get a lot of activity from whoever is in here. So the story was supposedly when the asylum patients had gotten loose, and he came down here and he raped and murdered an elderly woman in front of these sinks. Can't find. I've been digging, trying to find anything, but back then, if something like that happened, they probably did not document it.
Right.
So I'm trying to get the story out. We've been in here, we've investigated. We do get a woman that comes across. We actually got a recording of her saying they made it look like an accident. So, yeah, and I do dowsing rods a lot. I don't consider myself a medium or a psychic. I am empathic, but since I've been doing this for 4 years, I see things come to me. I might be becoming more medium-ish, psychic type. Right, I'm definitely opened more things up. And we were in here one night doing dowsing rods, and other people had a bunch of their equipment with them, so they had a REM pod, a K2 out here, and they had a mag light on that sink. And every time my dowsing rods went to yes, everything lit up with it, which that doesn't happen usually, you know, having everything light up. And every time it went to yes, it would light up. So I'm like, okay, so we must be getting something here. She actually did give us a name. She told us when it happened, and then she told us that it didn't happen in the sink area. If you actually go back around this corner, there's a bathtub.
I was gonna say that. I should have said that.
You should have said it or wrote it down. I hate when I do that too. When people, but yeah, she said it happened in the bathtubs. So
I was on the opposite side of the wall.
yeah, if you go around this corner, there's actually a tub and shower back there.
And then like right in this area, there's like a really strong.
Everybody hates this tea.
It's the tea.
Yeah.
That's what I told him. Like it's.
They got up
And we have no reason, we don't know of anything that happened right here, so.
Right.
And always keep in mind that just because I'm not talking about certain areas doesn't mean things don't happen there. Go to where you're drawn to, especially in this building. They tend to call to you. They definitely call to you here. It's definitely cold.
It's very cold.
Then this bathroom has a confirmed suicide. In 1979, a man hung himself in the bathroom. The police department actually told us that. We've recently discovered who we believe he is. So I'm not going to give you his name in case you get it, but I did have a team like a couple weeks ago. They got a name that rhymed with it. It was very close. They were just off by one letter. So I'm like, maybe it is him. Because we're not exactly sure. We've heard two different stories, but we believe we pinpointed from what we've gathered information-wise of who he was that committed suicide in here. I will give you a little bit of information about him just so you can communicate with him. He was one of the maintenance workers here. So that way you have something to go with without a name. All right, I see you looking at that room. That is actually where my doppelganger was seen by my son. We were here for the very first time I ever came here. It was for a public hunt. He brought me here for Mother's Day. And I was actually downstairs, and he didn't know it because he was with another group. And he said he saw me walk into this room, and he walked in behind me. And of course, there's another door. So he thought I came out there, so he comes right out behind me, and I wasn't here. I was nowhere. That was because I was downstairs. He said he could see my bun, he could see the clothes I was wearing that day, everything. He literally just followed me. He was like, "Hey, Mom." And I never turned around and looked at him. And anytime when my kids say, "Mom," when somebody I don't know says, "Mom," I look, because I have 6 kids, you know? It's like, so he saw me that night. Yeah, it kind of freaked him out too. Now's the asylum. Yes. That's common. Very common. Yeah, my flashlight just tried to not work.
I have so many children. I can see it.
So this is the asylum. This area would have been their day room or recreation room. Like I said, they didn't come down for meals, so this is probably where they had their meals at too. Everything you could think of has happened up here, paranormal-wise that you can think of. I mean, without giving too much away. Down here are the patients' rooms and the doctor's room. Yeah, it's heavy up here. You okay? So this is the doctor's room, aka the surgeon's room. He does prefer to be called the surgeon. I will give you that heads up. Most of this is paranormal too, so I might have a hard time. This room here, the hint I'm going to give you is be aware of your emotions if you're in this room. If you're an empath, especially be aware of your emotions in this room.
So they try to manipulate them?
Yeah. You will all of a sudden be angry, sad,
Yeah.
sick, sometimes off kilter. I am very attached to the woman in that room. Probably not in a good way. I was told it was not very healthy of me to be. So I've been trying to distance myself from her a little bit. This room, some people call him the mean man. I just feel like he's one of those people that if you treat him like shit, he's going to come back at you. This one I am going to give you his name for, only because he prefers that you call him out by name. Kind of knock on his door and say, hey, John, I'm going to come talk to you. And you get a whole lot more action than if you just go in and barge in and start popping off questions. He kind of shuts down and doesn't want to talk to you.
Right.
And then you have the rest of this whole area. Yeah, when I investigate up here, I tend to do it right here in this hallway because you can see everything and it's the best place to do it. Or if you're going to set up a camera, good place to do it. All kinds of things to do up here. Pretty much everything. That was my stomach. Not a demon. That was only the first time it's happened, though.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not anymore.
Huh? I call it out. I do this, so I call out if anything happens. That's the dumbwaiter, where they brought the food and medicines up.
Oh, okay.
Make
This
sure
is
to
what
look
you was
like
talking
that
about.
like she's on it.
Does anybody have any questions for me? No.
Amazing building.
Yeah, I love her.
What's the family?
Actually, I told you my son volunteers with me. Zachary, he felt like they wanted music, so he brought that for them.
That's awesome.
He's also an empath.
Oh, gotcha.
I always tell him, I'm sorry, that's the feature you got from your mother, because he looks just like his dad, but he has my emotions. Actually, all my children but one. I have 6 kids, and all of them volunteer here with me but one. And that one is like, why do I want to sit in the dark and listen to nothing? He doesn't believe in any of it. I don't know. I don't mind the surgeon.
Okay. Sorry, that was him.
I don't mind the surgeon at all. A lot of women do not like him. I don't have any problems with him.
Do you think that most of the spirits here, like, more you have to approach them in a specific way, like ask them if it's okay to talk to them? And
A lot of the times before you guys get here, I come through and I'll be like, hey, I have friends coming to talk to you guys tonight. If you feel like talking, please step up and talk. In the asylum, sometimes, especially later at night, if you seem like you're not getting a whole lot, kind of tell them they're allowed to come out of their rooms. Because they had rules back then. Even though we tell them they're free roam, I think they're still stuck in that. Yeah, that cycle of going back to their rooms and
That's
stuff.
how Fairfield was.
And you got to make sure you tell them you're not going to get in trouble. That was me that said burr.
Oh, yeah. I heard that.
It was like cold wind went right through me. Ugh.
Yeah, I gotta get warmed up. I'm getting all clumsy.